We give our final thoughts on the whole logo gate thing that happened at half court. And is Jase Richardson the best freshman under Izzo of all time? All that and more with the one, the only Graham Couch. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay with us for the Armada Team of the Week later in the episode. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On Spartans. It's your team in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, and help us welcome Graham Couch of course, the Lansing State Journal, the Couch in the Room podcast. We agreed beforehand that we're going to blame his fuzzy camera on Chris Solari spilling coffee or some liquid on it during the game yesterday. Is that what we settled on, Graham? Is that okay?
I have no idea. This is the first time I've ever seen the camera look like this, and I think there's nothing on it, so we wiped it clean. It must be some internal error. I mean, it's an old computer. It's been a war horse for me for a long time.
Okay.
So it may be time for a new MacBook. But for right now, I'll be honest. For somebody who's not the best looking bloke around,
okay.
Right?
Okay.
My chins sort of, fade into each other.
Okay.
Here. It's better. It's better for everybody. So
so really everything's coming up us right now. This is great. Graham, we're going to start on a topic which I'm sure that you're just thrilled about. And, when we were talking about the show, I said, hey, we'll put this into the end of the show if we have time for it. And, of course, we're talking about the little skirmish at half court, the comments following. And there were more comments that happened today out of Ann Arbor on Monday. So that's right, we're sliding this up to the top. Now, after the whole thing happened at half court, you guys obviously know what I'm talking about. There were 3 doors that old Dusty May could have walked through. The first door is the defiant door, the screw your traditions door. And while I would not have liked that, of course, like who could have possibly liked that? I would at least respect it. Like our guys will not bow down to anyone. That includes our rivals. That includes on senior day. Or he could have walked through door number 2, the apologetic door. Oh my God, I really had no idea, guys. I'm so sorry this all happened. Which looked to be the door that he was walking through when he was talking to Izzo at the end of the game when both of them got close together to hash it out. But no, here we are through door number 3, the weirdest door that they could possibly pick, the acting ignorant and or just flat out lying door, the claim you always stand on the free throw line spot where you haven't done that all game. And actually last week when you were also getting pounded by another team on a senior day, your own senior day, you guys didn't have anyone around half court. You don't line up for free throws like that and claim that you didn't know that this is a tradition at Michigan State. But in the same breath, saying that the refs came over to warn you, even though Fat Brooks, one of the guys on half court, is from Michigan and surely he owns a television. Also, Frankie Fiddler, hey, what did he just do 20 seconds ago? Oh, he just kissed the court 3 feet from us. Now a day later, Monday comes around, Graham, and they say, well, hey, MSU's logo is a third of the court. Of course, our guys are standing on it, and they didn't mention they were standing right in the middle of said logo. They didn't mention that one guy said to the other guy, don't move. They didn't mention that, hey, the 2 players were smirking at each other because, well, surely that's what you do when you're getting pounded by nearly 20 points. You claim that you don't watch any Michigan State documentaries, and this guy just coached like he actually doesn't even watch Michigan State game film, Graham. I don't know why he's running around the way he is right now, so my question to you is, what's wrong with them over there? Why did they pick the weirdest possible way to handle all this? What's wrong?
What's odd about it is, obviously the problem is at Michigan, they don't get the benefit of the doubt on this stuff, right? Because there has been too much of sort of creating the stir and then playing the victim over time.
Oh, have they? Huh. Okay.
And so even if this was an honest deal, if this was Penn State or somebody, I do think, like when I first thought about it, before I had seen any of the videos and just sort of was reacting to what I saw, and I was not in Dusty May's press conference yesterday because it's the setup at senior day. Izzo's still talking. Everybody's,
right. Okay.
On the court. It's not a great setup for that particular day for like questioning an opposing coach. Just not going to happen really. But when I at first I thought, well, here's a team with 37 new players, a new coach who has 0 Big Ten history. People think he does. He was around Indiana as a student manager in the 90s to 2000. He's been south and everywhere since. So, I could get that. There's no history. But the problem is you joined a school that sort of had this, when it comes to the Michigan State rivalry, this tension that they've often helped create and then sort of played ignorant to. And so if you don't want to be part of that, then you have to explain yourself better. And I actually don't mind the pettiness. Just kind of own it, right? I have no problem saying, their tradition. We're getting blown out. We're standing where we want to stand. I don't care. If you want to go that route, I have zero problem with it. I might have gone that route myself if I was an opposing player in a big rivalry game. Now, I know Michigan State fans are fired up about this. But
are we? Is that the vibe you're getting from us? Shoot. Okay.
It's also the best thing that could have happened by a long, long way.
Yeah.
So, I also think the anger needs to be understanding. If they hadn't done it, your day would be worse. So think about that, because if they hadn't done it, because I'm writing these quick takes at the time in the game, and they're blowing them out. They're up 25, and I'm writing them one way, and then it's 11. So I'm ticked off at MSU at the time, late in the game. I'm like, you've changed the vibe here. And then Michigan goes and changes the vibe again, and Trey Holloman shove and all that, and the crowd and the galvanization afterwards.
No.
This was the first time this has happened to Michigan State, where Michigan State has been on the winning end in a while. So to me, this was by far the best thing, given the way that game went from 25 points, looking like a 40-point blowout, to a game that was tense for a minute there. This was the absolute best finish that could have happened. And so, but that said, I think it's just weird the way they've handled it a little bit to this point. And, I don't know exactly who knew, who was instructed to do what and where. I don't think we don't have that. They don't make, and the other thing is, Tony Garcia at the Free Press brought this up. He had asked to speak to the two freshmen afterward. They were not made available. One of the best things MSU does is open locker room. It creates player accountability right afterwards. Miles Bridges, mom pays an agent $40. Guess who spends 20 minutes being asked about it in a Wisconsin locker room in 2017 or whatever it was. So that stuff is helped. And if you don't do that, and these are grown-ups at this age of free will, and if they're not made available, then whatever perception is you have to clarify that. It's on you to clarify that. And this isn't a Michigan thing, because Michigan State is a unicorn in terms of open locker rooms and access in the country.
Correct.
Places do this. Some places are pretty good. If you ask a certain guy, they'll get them. But when you choose to be the norm, and when you choose to act like these are state secrets and all that sort of stuff, then and you live through that paranoia that, God forbid, an athlete might say something interesting, then whatever we think, whatever the perception is until you clarify it. That's on you, because you live in this ridiculous world of zero access where people can't speak for themselves.
I do love what you said, and I agree wholly with what you said, that this is good. State fans should be happy about this. And I don't expect anyone to remember what I've said when this conversation has been brought up in episodes past, but I've said for the longest time, I actually didn't like when John Beilein was there, because he was so likable. He was so respectable. I want to hate my rival's head coach. That's why I miss Juwan Howard, not just because he was driving that program into the dust, but he was just also very hateable, punching other coaches, coming on the court while a game's going on. This is what we needed in this rivalry. I didn't know much about Dusty May other than that, solid coach. He's had a good year in Michigan. For him to do just the odd line, or just acting like we're way dumber than he is, of, hey, Izzo, oh my God, I'm so sorry, we're going to handle this. And then the press conference say, oh, I didn't know it was tradition to not say at the free throw line. Pick something. Be defiant. Be somebody, Dusty. Come on, man. So if you want to add on top of that, you can. But if you just want to get off this topic, I don't mind. I mean, it's what makes this stuff fun, right? It's college. Without this stuff, college sports doesn't have that gravitas and zest and everything that we love about it, right? It's what makes these. There has to be some dislike. There has to be some people who care. The fact that there are a zillion Michigan State fans who are offended by this is what makes this work. And the fact that Michigan fans or Michigan's program has this dynamic is what allows, otherwise you just don't have a high enough level of sport to make this work on its own. So people need to understand that, if you want to see higher level basketball, the G League is in Grand Rapids and Detroit. Okay. So and nobody's going to those games. So you got to have Trey Holloman shoving a guy at half court. You need some WWE, and you need some tension and some people to hate each other to make this work. The Armada Team of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our Locked On College Basketball experts are picking one team that stands apart. From top-seeded stars to the unexpected upsets, these guys showcase the strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. This week's Armada and clear-cut Team of the Week is the Duke Blue Devils. John Shire's team, led by National Player of the Year candidate Cooper Flagg, just ripped through the ACC going 19-1. The Blue Devils were plus, my goodness, 434 points in ACC games, the largest point differential by a power conference team in league play since Kentucky did it back in 1953-54. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what the Blue Devils have done here. It's clear that our team of the week is here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of Nissan's outstanding vehicles. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Let's talk about Trey Holloman because we talked about this yesterday after the game with Dave Klein. He said that, I don't want this to be a remembered part of the season. I said I actually do, because the imagery attached with this team kind of reflects that mentality. And there's a lot of great things about this team, Graham, obviously, right? Like, let's just go down the list really quick. Like, rebounding, we're talking on-court stuff first. Like, this is the best offensive percentage rebounding team since 2018 in East Lansing, and defensive percentage since 2016. The best defensive efficiency team, since 2020, and offensively, 78.4 points per game. That is the third most ever in the Izzo era, but it's even the off-the-court thing, which I think is the best thing this team has going for it. It sounds stupid, but like dogs. Like, no egos, like truly 10 deep, leaving the drama at the door. No one cares if they start, how much they play. They just want to win. And as we get into March, yes, the rebounding defense and offense is all nice. I think it's what's between the ears that really sets this team apart from anyone else. Now, are you wrapped up in all that mystique like I am, or is there something actually on the court that you think can carry this team far in March?
Well, it's the dynamic they have that is, it's the rebounding, the defense especially, and then it's Jace Richardson, right? Mm-hmm. It's they do have a guy now, and they do have a guy you can ride. He's averaged 17 points and almost 5 rebounds in the last 9 games, where they've gone 8-1. And, I'm working on my all-conference ballots last night and trying to figure out where I'm going to put him, because it's an interesting discussion, because you've got a guy who's his last 9 games really warrant it. Before that, don't. And then you've got a lot of guys down the stretch who faded or faded slightly, who were really in contention for even Big Ten Player of the Year. And I think you had to rank them 1 through 15. I think I had Jace Richardson 6th, and that comes out shortly here. So that I just think they have a guy, and that helps Jaden Akins. It helps everybody else when they know. They trust him. They know the moment's not too big for him. Look at Sunday. He's a guy who hurts his back, sprains his ankle, and then hits a huge 3. And that allows everybody else to fit into their roles sometimes. And for Akins, I think that's a big deal too, because he set the tone hitting those 3 early threes. And Akins wanted this to be a Denzel Valentine type senior year, but he's not that player.
Right.
And so he had to come to grips with that at a certain point and still be a tenacious defender. And still be, you want to be Batman, you wind up being Robin, but to play the best version of that is really important for Michigan State. And so I think they get more out of him because there's less pressure on him. I think there's a lot of stuff, on the court that makes them. There are good vibes, there's no question. But there is a resolve to them, and there is there are a couple things they do well. One, usually they have like an 8-0 run somewhere in the game, and then they hold it. And one of the things they've done really well is they do not give up leads generally. Now, yesterday was sort of a reverse game, bizarro world of the whole season.
Right.
But usually it's a second half team that is will take control of a game and then not relinquish it and wear you down and just keep coming at you. And those are traits that become just part of your DNA, and that's things that are happening on the court in terms of how they defend the 3-point arc. I would venture to tell people, like, would it be nice if Michigan State shot 3 better % from 3? And shot like 34, 35 as a team? Yeah. But not at the expense of the opponent shooting 3, 4, 5% better. Of course. I'm not saying those two things have anything to do with each other, but I'm just saying, like, what they do defensively, the 3-point arc, has made them who they are. You watch how they bothered Purdue and a number of other teams, Illinois late. That's made them. That's elite defense. and how they cover for each other and the trust they have. That stuff can carry you.
So point blank, on the topic of Jase Richardson, like, is he Izzo's best freshman of all time? And of course, no real shortage of candidates, although no one's really at the top like these guys are. Like Gary Harris, really solid freshman year, obviously. Miles Bridges, he was popping off for 17 a game. Nick Ward, most points for a freshman, actually, in the Izzo era. And then, who can forget, 2001, Marcus Taylor, Zach Randolph, just a dynamic tandem of freshmen. But while Jase isn't going to scrape any freshman records here at Michigan State because, his workload has gotten, higher in the last month, is he still like the most talented, best freshman that you've seen under Tom Izzo? We're not going to count, Magic Johnson, of course, but like for Jase,
right.
For Izzo era. Yeah.
Well, and you have, Jaren Jackson Jr. was Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, totally. That's a good one.
Work in progress. So that, and Bridges was a force. And, the real question is like, Jase is a better basketball player than Bridges. He sees the court better. He's just a better creator, better everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like the thing he's going to be so good at in the NBA is he's going to make a star's life better next to him. And because the way he plays and what he can do, the pressure he can take off somebody, and then, how he can complement them in the passes he may. The completeness to who he is, I'll put it this way. I don't think if you said you have to pick one freshman that I've seen Michigan State have under Izzo to play with this team this coming up month, Jase Richardson or them, it would be Jase Richardson.
Okay.
And so that you're like Miles Bridges, a wonderful athlete and very good freshman. They didn't win a ton that team. That wasn't entirely his fault, but wasn't a great ball handler. Didn't see he was a ferocious athlete, but they have a guy like that and obviously Cohen Carr. I just think that what you can get out of a guard that's this good this early, and what he does for them is different than what Gary Harris did.
Yeah.
Marcus Taylor wasn't as ready as this. It would be him. That's a really good question and probably a good column for some point.
We're having a good question off because I like that question of like what freshman would you trade for Jase Richardson? And the only two that I would even entertain, Miles Bridges isn't even one of them. It would be Nick Ward just because of how good of a finisher he was down low. And in these scoring droughts that Michigan State has had in the last few games, like you're on the couch, or at least I am, you're on press row with the fancy schmancy people over there, Grant, but I'm on the couch thinking like, if we can just dump the ball low in the block and get like an easy 2, that'd be great. I could really go for one of those right now. Or the other guy would be Jaren Jackson, just what he offered defensively, of course, could stretch the floor. But does all that beat what Jase does for a team? I don't think so. So here I am just thinking like, is it prisoner of the moment to say he's the best Izzo freshman? Perhaps, but...
Well, I think this is a hard thing for people to calculate, too. Everybody thought Derek Queen, freshman of the year in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. He's had an amazing year, and it's a really good year for freshmen. So it's not an insult to Jase Richardson if he's not a freshman of the year. But, it is hard when you've been thinking one way and then something happens late in the year. And that's sort of what's happened here. So for a lot of, you have a certain line of thinking into February, and then all of a sudden there's, 9 games like this, and you have to, and then it's the winning too that he leads to. And they don't beat Oregon, obviously, without him.
No.
They don't beat
Rutgers.
Michigan
sure.
There are a number of games that they just don't win that are really important. And then even against Michigan this last week, it's him with the 2 buckets when the game gets closest. And I'm not saying they would have lost that game anyway, but like, it's another level.
Attention, Locked On Spartans fans. Ever wish you could directly support your favorite Spartan athletes and be part of their journey? Well, now you can with Roy, the NIL app that puts fans in control. Before Roy, NIL deals were often handled behind closed doors, and fans like you didn't have a clear way to directly support the players that you love. Now with Roy, you can make a real impact and feel closer to the athletes representing Michigan State. With Roy, you get to choose the player you want to support, decide how much you want to contribute, and then get exclusive content straight from the athletes that you back. Now, the best part, if your player transfers, you get your money back. So it is a risk-free way to show your support and make your voice heard. Support your favorite players directly and help shape the future of Michigan State sports. Download the Roy app now from the App Store and start backing Michigan State athletes the way they deserve with transparency, trust, and real impact. This is the future of college sports. Join it now by downloading Roy and supporting your favorite Spartan players. Are you close enough on the floor to know like how injuries are handled under Izzo? Because I want to pick that part of the game. Jace is, I don't know if he went to the ground, but he was hobbled. It was very clear that his ankle got tweaked. And I'm at home thinking, you know what? Would love to win this game, of course. Largely meaningless. The banner's already up. Let's put this kid on ice. I don't even care if I see him in the Big Ten tournament. That's how scaredy of a cat I am over here, Graham. And of course, he doesn't even think of going to the bench, or Izzo doesn't even look down to his bench to even think of a sub. Are you close enough to know how that goes? Do they give each other a look? Is it a sign? What happens when a guy goes down with a little injury?
Yeah, I mean, if he's, I mean, usually the player will signal like, you know, I'm okay, and that's what Jace was. Jace was not looking to come out. Now they were not looking to take him out either at that moment. Like they're not
obviously right.
Somebody else in there. But if he had signaled he needed somebody, and I believe, and I'm trying to recall this, because he fell awkwardly a couple times, but at least one of those moments he had kind of a nod of the head and a hand, like I'm good, sort of, so to speak. So you have to trust players in those scenarios.
So as we go to the Big Ten tournament here, is there anything that you're still really looking for from this team? Obviously, we've got a sample size of 30 games. We know a lot about this team. What else could you possibly learn? But that's not the business we're in, Graham. Yeah,
there's nothing this week. I mean, for those who follow soccer, this is the FA Cup, right? You rotate, like you don't care, and then if you start to make a run and you're near a final, then you play for real. And no offense to the Big Ten tournament, but that's just what it is, and that's what it should be. I mean, the ACC is playing its tournaments for the championship, like it's conference championship. But you know what that means? They just played 2 months of irrelevant basketball.
Thank you.
They just wasted their time. I can't even imagine covering an ACC team, writing 3 quick takes every game. I would sit there and be like, my third take would be, and a reminder, this doesn't matter. Like, this is pointless waste of time. Like, we didn't need to be here. Because apparently the conference tournament is all that matters. Yeah. But I do think there are things that could happen that could be good for them. One would be like Jaden Akins heating up. Now, he's hit 3 threes in the last 3 games, but still not a really high percentage. Like, if something happened there, or Jackson Kohler all of a sudden hit, 4 threes in 2 games, or that outside shot, if that became, the flip side of that is you don't want to have a great shooting Big Ten tournament, wear yourself down, and then the following Thursday somewhere at noon, not be able to hit a shot. So I have mixed feelings on the value of the Big Ten tournament. I think it's fun. I think for certain teams, if you had injuries and you think you're the best team and you haven't been able to show that for whatever reason, it's a great chance to do it. If you have co-champs like in 2012 or whatever, and they meet in the final, there's some value. I'm not saying there's no value to it, but it's not what the regular season is, and you have a better, bigger, single elimination tournament coming up the following week that everybody cares the most about. So, there's not like in Michigan State. I will pick them to lose to Oregon if that's who they're playing, because I think Oregon was a really good team. I love Fieldstad as a guard, and if they wind up in that game, it's like, well, you beat Oregon. Oregon's finally gotten to settle in one location instead of traipsing all over the country. Now, and UCLA, the next game will be tough too. Now, if they play Indiana, I do wonder if they'll be out to like really want what happened at Breslin. And I'm not saying they're going to mail this in. I think they've got too many guys that care, that are fun. They're not going. They got a lot of good players. They could win this thing. But there is something innate that's in if you're you cannot fake desperation and you cannot fake hunger. And those 2 elements, I think, won't exist for Michigan State this week. And because of that, those little things, if somebody's a little hungrier than you, Michigan State is not talented enough on its own to just, blow by people. I would be very surprised if they won the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, because that's what me and Dave talked about yesterday. It's like either just lose the first game, which sounds ridiculous. Of course, I'm a Michigan State fan. When the game tips off, I know deep down I will want them to win, but just either get bounced immediately, let's rest the legs, or just win the whole thing. Don't do this thing where you win Friday, lose Saturday, or God forbid you win Friday, Saturday, and lose Sunday, and you just wasted all of our time. But yeah, it's just once you've reached the mountaintop of the regular season championship, which is obviously the biggest one in the Big Ten, it's the FA Cup, Graham. Like, it is this little exhibition where, yes, other hungrier teams want it a little more, but you've already reached the tallest mountain for your conference. What more is there to really conquer? Let's just get right for the biggest mountain of them all, which starts next week.
Michigan State is Liverpool, right? They're going to win the English Premier League. They're still in the Champions League, but guess what they checked out of? The FA Cup. And they didn't want those extra games on their legs. And the Big Ten really wanted this to be different. It would end at Saturday, number one, so that game could count toward the NCAA tournament seeding.
Thank you.
Championship game. And you'd have a moment to marinate in it and to celebrate it. Like to be what you have with hockey's a little different, right? Because it's steeped in tradition. They've been playing these since the 70s, and it's 2 out of 3 early on, and it's over 3 weekends. And then women's basketball, while I don't think it's the tradition's not anymore, it's played a week before, so you have a whole week to like marinate in a championship. This is, we struggle to cover this stuff because it's like 10 minutes after the game. You're talking about brackets. Nobody cares about this Big Ten championship or a tournament championship, I should say. So like that, it's a fun tournament. I enjoy being there. I think it can have some value. 2015, that run they made before they lost in the final, I think spurred that Final Four run, gave them the confidence. There are years where it has great. 2016, when they won it, that Denzel Valentine team, he had an injury. They had lost 3. They did not win a Big Ten title. It meant something. And if you don't win it, it means something. And there's nothing wrong with celebrating it if you win it. But what you have to understand is that does not mean you overtake the team that just won the regular season championship. No. I've seen Purdue check out of this tournament after winning it and being the most dominant team in the last few years. Like it just is what it is, and that's okay.
And just to think of 2 other great moments in the Big Ten tournament is 2019. They, of course, beat Michigan. And also 2014 is very similar to what you said, injured throughout the entire year. Okay, here's your chance to prove it. And also against Michigan, actually, come to think of it, is who they beat in 2014. But both of those had that weird thing after the game where it's like they don't even have the sweat dried off their bodies yet. And all right, 2014, do we get a 2 seed? Do we move up to a 3 seed? Oh, it's a 4 seed. Or 2019, all right, hey, did we just get a 1 seed? All right, well, hey, at least we're not going to get Duke in this because we played so well. And they got Duke, which obviously ended just fine. But I like that. End it on Saturday at least. Give the committee something to think about and don't have them already having where you're at in Sharpie during the championship game. I like that, Graham.
The Big Ten and the Big Ten Network hates this and everything because they try and push this thing. But, like, the Big Ten has chosen the TV spot, right, leading into the brackets over the relevancy of their tournament. And that's okay. But that's their choice. And as long as that TV spot is the choice, then it's less relevant.
There we go. Future Big Ten Commissioner Graham Couch joining us on Locked On Spartans. Graham, anything else that you want to talk about before we let you go? Anything you want to plug here? Anything you got to get off your chest? Any IT help you need with your camera? From a listener or viewer, not from me. I can't help this, but
we're all the way. I do have a second work computer. I thought about this halfway through. I was like, we weren't all the way in. I would just go fire up the other computer that I own. That would have been better. But this haziness, it looks like I'm in a sauna on a submarine, like I'm out, or maybe I'm just at a lake on a hazy morning with a fog. This is me at my beach house. You just don't know it's behind me. This is the lake. It's, I got that.
I like that. Reporting live from his lake house, Graham Couch, everyone. Graham, always great chatting with you. Appreciate you carving out time, especially during the busy part of the season here. Obviously, it's going to be a whirlwind coming up for you, so can't thank you enough. And also the viewers, the listeners. I know you guys got busy lives too. Thanks for making us part of some of your lives here. Guys, until next time, we will be back because we do this on Locked On Spartans 5 days a week. Love you all. Go Green.